How's it going, folks? Welcome to Ballista Archery, and today we are going to be doing a European elk mount, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to do this. Now, I've been doing European mounts for the past 6 years now. Ever since I was 13, I started doing them for my buddies, my neighbors. So I do have a little bit of experience doing this. My good buddy shot this bull right here, archery elk tag. He actually ended up falling or died in a wallow, so he got a little stunky a little quick, so that's why there's some flies. I definitely recommend doing your elk heads or your deer heads, whatever it is, within the week that you shoot it. That's if the weather is nice. If it's warm, you want to do it as soon as possible. After that, they get stinky and it's not fun to work on them. But some of the materials we're going to be needing to do this is going to be some peroxide. I like to use a cream peroxide that I paint onto the skull. As a degreaser, this is optional, but I like to use OxyClean. It helps get out all the oils out of the skull. And then we're going to need a knife. Doesn't really matter, just something sharp and thin that you can get into, cut through the hide and work around the bone. Then obviously we're also going to need a boiler, a big pot or something that will fit the head in there. And it's pretty straightforward. So let's jump right in and see how to do this. The first thing we want to do is actually get the boiler rolling. While we're skinning this, we want the water to start heating up. There's a lot of water, so it takes a while. So while we're skinning the deer head or the elk head, we're going to be boiling our water. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is go and get the water boiling. All right, now that we got the boiler boiling, we can now start skinning the head. So again, I'm using disposables for this. Boom. And what you want to do is you work from the nose up, or that's how I do it at least. So kind of turn this head towards me, and you make the first cut at the nose. Just kind of cut down and just cut along the nose. Don't cut too deep. You don't want to cut up the bone. Now, if you think you cut the bone, if it's like a little cut, it might look like a cut, but that's just the flesh on top, so don't freak out. And then you just kind of skin down. Definitely makes this process a lot easier. Doing this with a dull knife is not fun. So as you can see, you're just cutting down. This you could just slice down, and you cut as you go. The fresher you do this, or the sooner you do this, the easier it is. The hide comes off easier, less bugs, doesn't stink. So boom, just like that, you see? And you didn't need to put your knife to it. The knife really cuts those up. Now you got a clean little pedicle. All right, now that we got all the hide off, now you want to remove this bottom jaw. So what you're going to do is cut the flesh down here. Just flesh that connects the jaw to the top of the skull. And sometimes this is easier, sometimes this is harder. Sometimes you can just pry it open, and sometimes you need to cut on the inside of the jaw. The jawbone goes up into here, and sometimes you got to cut in here. For now, I'm just going to see if I can just break it apart. To see if I can just break the jaw off. We'll see. All right, so we got all of the fur and all the hide off of him, and now he's ready for the boiler. But right before we throw him in the boiler, I like to wrap the antlers, just for extra safety measures. Plus, with this OxyClean, it can fade the antlers just a little bit. So I definitely want to wrap them up. All right, so now that the antlers are wrapped up and all good, now by this time your boiler should be, or your water should be nice and boiled. Before you throw in your deer head, you're going to want to throw in a couple of scoops of this peroxide, and the water is going to boil up a little more and it's going to overflow a little bit. Just let it simmer down a bit, and then throw the head in there, turn down the heat so that's not boiling, but so that's like simmering. And it's gonna be in there for a good probably 2 hours on a simmer. And what you wanna do is just, you know, every hour, check the head and you'll see the skin's gonna start peeling off of them first. And you'll just start seeing the flesh start coming off. The thing that takes the longest to boil on these deer head, elk head, is gonna be back here. There's a bunch of meat right on the back of their skull. So that usually takes a little while. But while you wait, you know, you got a couple hours to kill. This is when you take out the crossbow and you have some fun. While we wait for the elk head to boil, you gotta fill your time with something. Let's check this out. There's a pistol crossbow. We are actually the ones that sell this. This is the Ballista Bat Reverse. It has 150 pound limbs and it's shooting 340 feet per second with my hunting grains that are 340 grains, something like that. So it's producing 32 pounds of kinetic energy. There's some videos of guys shooting deer with them. I'll put one up right now. You load the bolt and just pop it off safety. So once again, guys, I'll leave a link to this down in the description, but let's jump right back into the video and hopefully the elk skull is done boiling by now. All right, so the deer head or the elk, so the elk head has been sitting in here simmering for about 3 hours now. And when you take it out, you can see all the flesh is starting to come off, falling off. So that's what you want. You want all the flesh to be falling off. And now, whoo, snap. And now the next step is going to be pressure washing. If you don't have a pressure washer, you can go to the car wash. That's what I'm going to be doing. And you can just use their pressure washer. But before you do that, you want to put the skull in a plastic bag or in one of those black trash bags to keep the heat in there, plus that it doesn't drip everywhere. So that's what I'm going to do right now, and then we're going to head over to the car wash. All right, now that the skull is pretty much all cleaned up, there is a little bit of pieces here and there of dried skin that I wasn't able to get off, but that's all right. It doesn't have to be perfect because the peroxide will eat out you know, the light stuff. Now obviously you don't want chunks of flesh on here, but you don't have to really stress about it too much because after the peroxide, what is left, you'll be able to pick it off quite easily. Now, the peroxide I like to use, is 40 volume. I'm not sure if they sell 40 volume for everyday folks unless it's 50 peroxide. Anyways, just get the strongest peroxide you can get. If you can get your hands on the 50, that is great, but oftentimes they require a license. You might be able to talk your way in. That's what I've done that before. But anyways, you want a bottle of this stuff and you're just going to apply it to the skull. Now, I'm gonna take this into the garage because I don't want this sitting out here for the next week. However, this process usually takes, depending on the skull and the grease, usually 5 days about to get it nice and white. And every couple days you just want to reapply the peroxide. There are liquid peroxides that you can just boil the skull in. However, I don't like it because it's not as strong. The skulls turn out a little yellow after that. But this stuff makes them really nice and white. There's a few other methods, but that's for that aside. We're doing it this way just because this is the easiest stuff to get your hands on that is still very effective. So we're gonna take this to the garage and we're gonna apply it. Excuse the low light quality. I'm working in the garage right here, but you don't need to see much. It's pretty self-explanatory. What you're gonna do is just pour this stuff down him, and with the paintbrush, you're just gonna paint it on. Don't get it on the antlers. This will cause his antlers to get bleached. Now with elk, it's a little easier because they have this tall pedicle. With deer, you definitely want to be careful. You got to wrap them with the antlers sometimes. But other than that, you just Just paint it on there. Now I know it doesn't look like much, but trust me, this stuff is powerful. And you just want to paint it on. Paint it on, paint it on. You're Picasso, just painting away. I'm running a little low. I'm gonna have to go grab more, but you guys getting the memo? Every nook and cranny needs to be covered in this peroxide. Wearing gloves isn't a bad idea. This will burn your hands. You might get a little burn from it, but I don't like wearing gloves, so I won't and don't. But it's not a bad idea. Alright, so we just applied that peroxide. Now you're gonna go back there, and every couple of days you're going to reapply a nice small layer, or the same layer as we just applied. Now sometimes it might take 5 days, sometimes it'll take 8 days. Just depends on the skull. That skull is already pretty dang clean, not greasy at all, so I'm assuming it's gonna be like a week less, 5 days, and it'll be good to go. Alright, so it's been probably about 2 weeks or so, and the skull is looking nice and white. And now we got to get rid of the peroxide that's on it. Because it's a cream, it stays on there, unlike liquid peroxide where you just dip it in and dip it out. So now what you're gonna do is either if you have a big tub, fill it up with water, put the head in there, let it soak for a little bit, and then wipe it off. I don't have a tub like that right now, so what I'm gonna do is just hose it down and wipe it off with the rag, and then I'm gonna let it dry. All right, and that's a wrap on how to European mount an elk skull. Hope you guys found it informative and helpful for you guys. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time.